Hello, Tim Knight here, and we're going to do something we haven't done before, which is answer viewer questions. We get a lot of questions through various channels, and we're going to take these in chunks, and this might become a regular thing if people like this and if they keep sending questions. So we'll try 5 at a time, keep these videos manageable. And I'm not going to be showing charts live on this, but what we'll do is we'll show images whenever I do mention particular charts, static images that will help hopefully aid whatever I'm talking about. So let's thumb through them and I'll just read the questions out loud and give you my off-the-cuff answers. First one is, when price gaps through one of your stops, what is your exact playbook at the open? Do you exit immediately, wait for a bounce, reassess the chart first? The simple answer is that I just let the stop losses do their work. There are rare occasions, maybe 1 out of 50 times, 1 out of 100 times, when I take the initiative to remove the stop loss and wait for 10, 15 minutes to go by before setting it again. Sometimes that's a mistake. Sometimes it's a very good decision. It varies, but it's rare. Usually I just get stopped out straight away. And sometimes I re-enter after examining. So for example, Western Digital, WDC, I got stopped out of that earlier in the week. And that same day, I took a fresh look at the chart, decided that stop was too tight. It's still a good chart, so I re-entered it, and that's worked out so far. Next question. What specific evidence makes you admit that a bearish thesis is wrong and close the trade rather than add to it or extend the expiration? Basically, when the premise for the trade in the first place has been violated. So if there's a certain pattern, which is the basis for the decision, and that pattern is violated in some way, then I get out. And the stop does the work for me once again. I set the stop based upon what price action would constitute a violation of this setup. There are other times when it's more psychological, when things go on for so long and the chart's not behaving itself that I just decide to give up on it. Sometimes that impatience is not a good choice, and other times it's a very good choice. Bitcoin is a good recent example because it was grinding around between 60 and 65,000 for weeks and weeks, not doing much of anything. And the breakdown that I was hoping for just wasn't happening. So I finally just got out. I got out of my BITI inverse ETF. I got out of IBIT short. And good thing too, because Bitcoin soared about $16,000, $17,000 in a very short order. And I'm thinking of getting back into it again, but it essentially did not do what I was hoping it would do, and I just threw in the towel on it. Next question. When you have dozens of short positions at once, how do you size them and manage correlation so the entire portfolio does not become one large short market trade? In terms of sizing them, I just basically size them based upon loss potential. I measure essentially what would the loss be if I got stopped out, and I keep that fairly fixed from instrument to instrument. So one, like the cube short, might be 20 times bigger than a position on some crazy little stock, because I want to keep the nominal loss potential very, very similar from position to position. In terms of avoiding correlation, I can't really do that. I take very much a bottoms-up approach, and if a chart is appealing to me, even if I got 5 other similar charts in the same sector, I try to treat them individually. A good current example is I'm short Planet Labs, PL, Rocket Labs, RKLB, and Viasat, VSAT. Similar industry, similar charts in a way, but on their own merits, one by one, they need to stand on their own stop loss in this case. So it doesn't really bother me. And don't overthink it with respect to them being that correlated. Next one. When expressing a bearish view, how do you choose between shorting shares, buying long puts, using put debit spreads? How do you select the expiration? This is an easy one to answer because I don't trade options much. When I do, it's very simple. I just buy puts. And I try to do that if I have a long view on something and I'm willing to give it lots of time to work out. A good live example of this is FXI, which is the Chinese ETF. It's not a great bid-ask spread usually, unfortunately, and that's usually kind of a requirement for me. But I'm willing to live with it because these are long-dated puts. These are March 2027 puts, so they have literally hundreds of days left on them. And yeah, it's really just for peace of mind to have all of that time. But I'm not a sophisticated options trader by any stretch. And 9 times out of 10, probably more like 29 times out of 30, I'll be in just a simple short sale as opposed to an options trade. And the last of this group is how do you place stops and size positions in extremely volatile names without getting shaken out by normal price movement? Getting back to the risk management question, it's just a much smaller position. So taking, for example, SanDisk, SNDK, SanDisk is clearly a volatile issue. It went up thousands and thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of percent over the span of a year. It's an enormous gainer, very wild stock. And I just look at the stop loss and measure it and set the size accordingly. I did get stopped out of that, and I have not gotten back in because the pattern is kind of wrecked at this point. But there are times that, volatile or not, it's appealing enough as a chart to give it a shot. But again, sizing things so that there's not an outsized nominal financial risk. So that's the end of these 5. And if you like it, if you got more questions, please send them on in and try my best to answer them. Thanks.